The time to watch this short introduction to the International Symposium on Sustainable Refurbishment, or ISoSR for short. ISoSR is an international high-level symposium on sustainable refurbishment taking place in London in September 2017. It is hoped that the symposium will repeat again in the future, perhaps with other countries acting as host. We define sustainable refurbishment as improvements to existing buildings that are motivated by the need to improve their energy efficiency or otherwise improve the general health and well-being of its occupants or users. In some countries, this is often called retrofit, in others, renovation. ISoSR tackles the issue in buildings we live in, work in, and use on a day-to-day basis. We cover both domestic and non-domestic buildings. Over the next few minutes, I'll explain why we're staging the event, who's involved, what to expect, and how you can get involved. So firstly, why are we staging ISoSR, and why now? Despite huge investment into R&D by governments and industry, most countries have failed to establish a sustainable market for sustainable refurbishment. We fail to develop approaches that successfully incentivize uptake. We fail to fund deep renovation adequately, preferring the statistical comfort blanket that high volumes of single measures delivers. We fail to understand the idiosyncrasies of climate, geography, and building typology before we decide on a prescription to retrofit a building, often inappropriately. For example, we make buildings airtight without ventilating them, even though most experts would recognise that this is insanity. We fail to educate residents or building occupiers on how to use the expensive technologies we install into their homes. Consequently, the promised energy savings don't materialise. We sometimes make health and social problems worse through retrofit, and not better. We're not even coming close to realising the potential carbon savings that a successful, widespread refurbishment of our built environment could offer. Our view is things just don't link up across sectors and between stakeholder professions. That means that at all levels, costly mistakes are repeated and wheels reinvented simply for the lack of awareness that others elsewhere have faced the same problem before. If you multiply that across international borders and even continents, the waste and inefficiencies have almost incalculable social, economic and environmental costs. And these will multiply rapidly if and when we start to deliver renovation at scale. We need to be ready, and at the minute, we are quite simply not ready. We must do better, and we can. ISoSR is designed to help. Getting the approach right on a technical and anthropological level is critical at a time when almost all of the developed nations on Earth have agreed to take immediate and substantial action on climate change at the Paris Conference. Achieving an overall 40% reduction in carbon emissions by 2040 is a major undertaking and will be all but impossible to deliver without substantial action on improving the energy efficiency of existing buildings. 40% of all emissions originate from the use of our buildings, 80% of them through space and water heating. None of the national climate change action plans proposed in Paris are deliverable without substantial progress on tackling emissions from the existing building stock. The size of the prize is vast in economic, social and environmental terms. There are estimated to be more than 1 billion homes in the developed world. An estimated 87% of these will still be standing in 2050. The vast majority require renovation, with many simple measures capable of radically reducing energy consumption affordably and simply. More complex properties and deeper interventions, of course, demand more careful thought to avoid common failures and unintended consequences, added to which A significant performance gap has developed between predicted and actual energy performance attained on many projects, often as much as 50%. However, with increased collaboration and widespread adaptation of best practice, these challenges can be overcome. However, according to the IEA, if we allow them to knock us off course, up to 2/3 of the economic potential of refurbishment before 2035 could be unexploited. Schools, hospitals, offices, retail, civic buildings and other non-domestic properties account for 18% of global CO2 emissions. And of these buildings, 90% are said to have an EPC rating of C or below. This is a sector often overlooked, with barriers to uptake linked to tenure, capital investment and business continuity risks amongst others. However, 70% of the non-domestic buildings in existence today will still be standing in 2050. Our urban environments are dominated by these properties, which play host to our working lives, shopping time, education, and the consumption of public services. Poorly ventilated, overheated, and inadequately lit buildings reduce our quality of life, our efficiency, and our output. They hasten the spread of infections and disease, and they lower our mood. For all of these reasons, a roadmap to widespread renovation of these buildings is too important to be neglected any longer. The vision for ISoSR is to bring together global thought leaders to effect a step change in the impact of research and the sharing of best practice across sectors and nations. Unlike many events, it will aim to cut across the traditional silos, to bring together academics, industry and practitioners. It will do this by featuring presentations and case studies from thought leaders from across the globe, hard-hitting keynotes and insight that will enable all communities to drive forwards their renovation agenda. The symposium will be led by industry experts in the shape of a very high-powered technical committee. These hand-picked experts are drawn from across industry, academia and the professions. They're responsible for designing the agenda, preparing a call for papers, reviewing and approving submissions to create a final programme for the conference. The committee will grow over time as we identify and meet new experts. Please get in touch if you'd like to get involved. Initial conversations with the committee have highlighted certain key themes. Firstly, members reinforced the need for the ISoSR event in the first place. Leading academics bemoan the fact there's so little international knowledge sharing. They say that renovation receives insufficient focus and is drowned out by new build, despite the fact that this market has a limited potential to grow or achieve the sustainability outcomes that policymakers will inevitably soon demand. Secondly, they recognise that a step-changing culture within the renovation sector will be required if ambitious targets are to be achieved. This will require leadership on an unprecedented level within the built environment. Thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, there is agreement that academia working independently of industry and practitioners is unsustainable. An event that brings together international stakeholders from across the value chain is required to help each sector play its part. The committee is meeting again on the 28th of September. Details of that meeting will be published on the website and a call for papers will be issued in the autumn. Please sign up for updates via our ISoSR newsletter by registering on our website. We'd love to hear from you for any reason. If you want to submit a paper for consideration, are interested in sponsoring or exhibiting at the ISoSR Symposium, attending as a delegate, or just have ideas or suggestions. Perhaps you're involved with a trade association that wants to get involved, or you run an international network of retrofit projects. It's a big wild world out there and we only know a fraction of what's really going on, so please do get in touch. We're a very small and very passionate team. I've been involved in sustainable refurbishment for almost a decade now. I run the Retrofit Academy community interest company, which provides specialist training in this sector. Prior to that, I ran a number of large trade shows and conferences in the sustainability sector, and I've held a number of non-executive directorships in related areas too. Please contact me regarding anything thematic or commercial, or if you just want to speak to me. Our conference coordinator, Josie, is your best point of contact in terms of operations and marketing. You can follow us on Twitter, via our company page on LinkedIn, and you can keep up to date on our website. I'll leave you now with our contact details. Thanks very much for listening. We look forward to bringing you more on ISoSR as the event takes shape.